Welcome to the FNO InsureTech podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsureTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world, welcome to another edition. It's him, Lee Boyd, the owner of many things at our company, and me, Rob Beller, the owner of nothing at our company. And that's why they put us together. Let's find both ends of the continuum and have them do a podcast.
You know, but that's, hey, it wasn't always that way. We got to have all sorts to talk, right?
It takes all kinds, they say. Isn't that
takes all kinds.
Well, on this podcast today, there are two kinds. So just know that.
That's true.
And we're going to say to you, Happy New Year, Merry
Happy
Christmas,
New Year,
Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, etc., whatever it is that you might celebrate or not celebrate.
We hope it went well. We hope the holidays and everything treated all of our guests well. We appreciate all of the Christmas cards that our fans sent in, wishing us happy holidays. That was so sweet of you. Thank you. Thank you.
The end of our 7th year of doing these crazy podcasts.
My goodness, 7 years.
So I'll just say to you, thank you, Lee Boyd, for doing it with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. It's been a journey.
And through it, one of the great things Lee and I were discussing this offline was that because of the podcast, we get to spend time with people whose paths we would never cross. And if we did cross their paths, they'd never give us the time of day. But because of the podcast, we kind of get thrust in front of them. And we have a guest today that fits into that group perfectly. We have Heather Wilson, who's the CEO of CLARA Analytics. And this person's background, credentials, accomplishments, ability are absolutely top-notch, incredible, and she gave us a full episode.
She did. Heather and I get to geek out on this episode over data, AI, the future, the current state, where we're going, what we can do. We get to learn all about CLARA Analytics and the amazing work that they're doing to help people settle claims quicker, faster, more accurately, a true return on investment for companies. And then we really get to start talking about where we're at, where we've come, and where we're going. So it's a great episode. We've had a couple of really exciting technology episodes on here lately, which makes sense. We're an InsureTech podcast. And today we get to bring you another one that we hope you can dream with.
And with CLARA, we're not talking about a startup here. We're talking about like 12 or 13-year-old company that is a certified InsureTech success. And when you hear about what they do and how they do it, I'm sure it'll blow your mind also. So without further ado, let's get to our interview with the one and only Heather Wilson, CEO at CLARA Analytics. Hey everyone, we are here on a cold, wintry day with a very special guest, somebody that we're really excited about, and our geek co-host, Lee Boyd, is particularly excited about.
I appreciate that, Rob.
So if you're a geek out there, don't turn this off. You're going to get a lot of pleasure out of it. We have with us today Heather Wilson, who is the CEO of CLARA Analytics, and coming to us from where? Where are you, Heather?
Right. I live right outside of New York City, and we just survived 7 inches of snow, and we're just hoping that this ice goes away. It's some warm weather.
I saw a picture
tomorrow
of the ice. You have a lot of ice there now, right?
We have a lot of ice right now, and let's get rid of this teen and 20-degree weather, and Let's get above freezing.
I'm in
point.
Waco, Texas, and it's 70 degrees today. A little
Okay.
rainy, but it's 70 degrees. Maybe I'll send some of my weather your way.
Yeah, I'm not going to get the violin out for you, cry me a river for you, right?
No, it was a little chilly the other day. It almost dropped below
I'm in
30.
2 layers. I'm a turtleneck and a vest, and you have on a golf shirt.
Dude, I'm a little hot just sitting here thinking about it, actually.
And looking at me like, what's wrong with her? Oh, my gosh.
She's dressed so warm.
The good news is we're going to warm you up today with this
Awesome.
podcast. And,
yes.
Let's kick it off by asking you the questions. Tell us briefly about CLARA Analytics and what it is that you guys do.
Sure. So CLARA Analytics is a leading AI claims intelligence platform. The thesis behind CLARA coming about was, listen, there's some complex cases that come in after FNOL, and how do we have AI models that never sleep? We want our adjusters to get some sleep. And so when they're ready, they wake up, and in the morning, these models have been working 24/7 and obviously through the night. And the data that's coming in, every piece of data on a case, off of a document, off of a report, out of a core system, we are mapping and standardizing and making sure it's of integrity. And then the models are detecting, is there a risk to this particular case? If something is being detected that it is happening, it will happen. It could be around leakage, anything around medical or legal or subro, risk transfer or fraud. Those models are trying to detect something that could make that complex case go off of its trajectory that we have already predicted out the costs, the reserving, and we want to keep it on that path. But let me tell you, the models can find the patterns, the correlations, the outliers that a human eye may take a long time putting together, even a data point. And they kick it up, they give the explainability, and then they give the next best reasoning for the adjuster to think through, okay, what should I do with this case now that this has been brought? It's given me the options. Let me take my experience. Let me go ahead and take an action now based on how the models have reasoned. So that's what we do.
Wow.
So the users can actually live within this system. They can use this and work with it.
That's exactly right. It's an operating system that lives on millions of cases that have been learned over the last 10 years of workers' comp, auto liability, and general liability. When that case comes in, we've seen that case before. We know it's 16 weeks, this predicted cost, this reserving that should be put in place. Here's the treatment path that, we've seen the other thousands of cases like this and its cohort go through. If we detect litigation, we're going to tell you to go look at our panel of defense and plaintiff law firms that we have been, using that come off those medical bills. If we're detecting that you're using a physician, your provider network that's using some medication that maybe is outside of the treatment path, or using codes that are outside of that treatment path, we're suggesting that you go in and look at it. If we detect that, you should just go ahead and settle. We're telling you to go ahead and do that. So yes, you're living inside of this operating system that sits right with your core system, but giving you signals on top of anything that they see that the case is going off of its projected path.
So are you just in comp?
No, we're in comp, and then we're in the 2 liability lines of auto and general liability. So sometimes our carriers in self-insurance work with us in all lines, and sometimes it could be just auto, or sometimes a monoline workers' comp carrier.
So I'm kind of interested. I was on your website, and it seems as though you were AI before AI was cool.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Lee. We talk about that all the time. Yeah. That's who I am too, as a person. A former colleague of mine and I were having breakfast in the city last week, and he said, Heather, you know why you have all those scars, figuratively, right? Figuratively. I don't know if that's a word. Where you've worked with all these Fortune 50 companies, because you were always years ahead, right? You just had this foresight. And that's what CLARA, CLARA has, been in since 2012, and when people didn't even know what AI was, and early adopters. And so this last year has been really fun for us, right? Like, yes, this is what we've been doing, predictive analytics, and then machine learning. We've been doing it for quite a while. And it's fun for us now to start building out the agents too. So we've just continued to build out new products based on new models, because leakage, abuse, anything that could deteriorate those lost costs, right? Mm-hmm. And we just continue to push out the models. But yeah, it's been fun over the last year for people to finally be where we are.
Yeah. And I was wondering, are people more accepting of what you're offering now that it's kind of in the general public? ChatGPT, it's helping you, it's predicting. Is it almost easier to sell the product now that it's generally accepted versus back in 2020, 2021?
I think that people can understand how it does help them in their claims shop. I use the analogy of the Waze driving application. That, listen, an experienced adjuster still wants to use CLARA, because they've seen these routes before. They've driven these routes. Like for me, I still use Waze when I know the route or don't know the route, because if there's traffic ahead or there's construction, I still want to know what's going on.
Oh, that's a great analogy. Analogy.
Right. And so, I think because people have used this in their personal lives, they now are able to wow, there's so much more data now. I really do need a tool that is in front of me. And so we have seen the adoption, the utilization. And I'll tell you, the CEOs and chief claims officers love our tool, because every time an adjuster takes an action based on something that we are suggesting, there's an ROI that can be attributed to that. So, that utilization and those actions, there's something financially or operational efficiency that they're gaining. Maybe the reserving is off, so we're triggering mismatching. And so with claims days coming in, those reserving triangles are going to shake a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So we're providing more intelligence on the actuarial side. Maybe you're getting rid of some bad actors in your provider network. That's taking costs out as well. Mm-hmm. Maybe, we're indicating that, the severity of this case is because we're detecting there are some nuclear verdict, things that are happening that could happen. And so the severity, so you may want to think about a different type of defense counsel because of that, or the attributes of the case, or, maybe there's fatalities in that auto liability case. Go ahead and settle the models, right? So I think people are getting used to more of that augmented intelligence helping them. And so that adoption is happening. And so, nowadays, I think people are used to, and we'll talk about data agents, automation, I think, is more accepted. But the augmentation to the automation is that level that they have to trust. They have to trust that you're giving me unbiased output from these models. Right, and we do that testing.
And in the popular AI today, in like the ChatGPT as an example, sometimes it gives you a result and you have to say to yourself, is this right? Is this accurate?
That's right.
Is
That's
this
right.
precise? And
that's right.
I'm sure you have some of that in probably more so with experienced adjusters who are like, no, wait, that doesn't wash with me, but that's okay, right? Or how do you deal with that?
So I think the hallucination came for us 2 years ago when we decided to get into the document intelligence and really get into Gen AI. So using the Anthropics, using the Claudes. And so making sure that the output of the intelligence off the documents, sure. Did we get peanut butter and jelly 2 years ago off of medical bill review documents that were coming in, or legal bill? The models, they have to start with something, right? It's like a pre-care. A pre-care is not going to be able to understand a full dissertation, but at some point in their education, they're going to understand how to read that essay. And so a model's the same way. It has to learn, just like a little human has to learn and go through education. Mm-hmm. So we went through that for about 6 months, teaching the models, this type of document, we're looking for this. The client wants you to start looking for these types of phrases and clauses in it. I'll tell you, I always use this analogy that I never know if one of my twin sons is going to learn from his mistake from that test and get it right on the next test. But a model, absolutely. If it misses on the first one, and you tell it missed, it's got it on the next one. Like,
Right.
That's just how the machines learn. So I think on the documents, we had to go through a lot of hallucination. We love it when adjusters say, well, I knew that. When the model is saying,
That's good.
Hey, exactly. We're like, that's good. That means it's exactly picking up the things, but there's going to be times that it picks up that, on the bottom line of a document, it's finding, a term limit in there, or maybe there's a code in there that your eye misses. It's not going to miss that. So we really try to encourage them to understand not only, they may know what the model's saying, but then we ask them to understand being good corporate citizens. And what I mean by that is when they actually take these actions, they're helping their respective CEO, president, or chief claims officer give, a financial lift back. So that means they're helping in some way from a medical situation by helping with that cost and leakage. Or maybe there's a legal action they've taken and it helps with leakage on that. Or there's abuse, that could lead to fraud. We try to get them to understand that their actions are contributing to a higher ROI that the tool is delivering back to the carrier or self-insured. And when they see themselves being that good corporate citizen, it's like, okay, I'm not just doing this for this file in this case, but it's also rolling up to a bigger financial benefit to their organization.
Wow. And so are you actually able to provide estimated ROIs to these leaders? So if we made this decision, if we had not made the decision based on the tool, it would have cost you X.
Absolutely.
You're able to really give that? That's neat.
We do. And we try to, within the first 6 months, at least give them 2 to 3% loss cost savings. So, and by, 12 months, we try to give them 5X to 10X multiple back in savings. So, and again, those costs are attributed back to medical, legal, fraud, subro, settlement. Maybe there's the opioid alerts are going off, or maybe the surgery alerts going off. I mean, there's any point one of these can go off, but it's all correlated back to an action that an adjuster took. It's also, there's a place where if the adjuster decides not to take the action, they put it in the notes why they really feel and with the appropriate governance that their supervisor and claims, operations leader will say, okay, we understand your thinking and you don't want to take the model suggestion. Then the machine relearns again that maybe that's how they want to practice their claims, shop. But back to your point, Lee, absolutely. We're not just an AI platform. We're one that, really does give back financial benefit and operational efficiency benefit. And we deliver that on a quarterly basis. And we also do a lot on with our reserving intelligence. So it's a new muscle for them. When you're using a new claims AI platform, you're running your shop differently. And so starting to see the tails differently to those policies now that you have the, exposure to the claims to those policies. Wow, that's a whole new policy actuarial intelligence that we're bringing. I've always said, if you can put those two together, right? Like that's such a big event in our industry.
And are you finding that for some of the companies, the carriers that have been using this longer, that they're achieving that kind of increasing scale of ROI as time goes on? I would think that the deeper an adjuster gets into it, the more they leverage it, the higher that number would be.
That's exactly right. And so, many of our tier 1, tier 2 carriers use this as a shared services platform. So both in their commercial and their personal lines, they want everyone to be using that same AI tool outside of that core system. And so, yes, the incremental lift just continues to compound as they, year after year that they're utilizing the tool. And again, what they could be maximizing if they're working on workers' comp, they could be maximizing their provider network by getting some of these highly cost medical offices or physicians out of their network. If they feel good about that, well, the models are over here working, in other ways, right? Could be around potential litigation that instead of, maybe they have a great partnership with their TPA. But now that they have visibility into the cases, they're asking their TPA to go ahead and settle earlier because here are the attributes for this case. And listen, settle at 10, not 100, if we just continue to elongate this. So especially in the self-insured, one of the things that really gave me a passion, everyone always thinks because I worked at AIG as a chief data officer, and sure, it's hard to build applications because the data is everywhere and there's so much you have to do and getting people on board. It wasn't like everyone was like, yay, Heather's here. We're going to, build another analytical application with her. Back in those days, you had to really build the business cases. You really had to, have the ROI to get the committees behind the investment. And so, one of the things with the self-insured, when I worked with a very large, retailer logistics, I would say to the chief risk officer, there's 5 ambulances out here tonight. I was working late as a chief data scientist and, he was like, really? He's like, I'll get a report from the TPA. And I was like, really? And it's just, there was something inside of me that was like, don't you want to direct that case? Don't you want to get in that black box and see what's going on with those files and maybe help navigate and direct it, right? Whether it's a, slip and fall in the distribution center or, something's happening, with the customer or the employee. Don't you really want to take care of these injured employees? And so that's really the reason why I went into the self-insured customer segmentation, because I felt like we could, with the TPA, bring another level of intelligence with them, but open up the black box so the self-insured could see exactly what was going on in there.
Man, you kind of get me wondering over your time, has the way that we build technology changed? Like, do we, in our IT groups and our data groups, do we look at building applications different? Like back then we had to have a business case and you had to be thought out. Everything's moving so fast now. Are we able to build quicker? And I say we as a group, but are companies able just to start building? Totally. Or do we still need to look at the compliance and everything like that? I mean, has it changed?
It has changed. So the ability to build is faster. Absolutely. Because when you already have models that you can tell it to go build something, right? And you can speak to it, it can build 80% of what a data scientist would sit there and code. So it's going to code faster. It's going to get you 80% of the way there, right? And now that we have agents also that can bring automation behind the build of the code, this is where the need is. It's still going to be a data problem, no matter how fast you can build something, because our carriers still have these heavy legacy environments, and they still, no matter if they're in a lake house, they're in a cloud environment, well, that data's still dirty. It still needs to be mapped. It still needs to be standardized and normalized, and then be, fit for a model. So you can build a model, right? And you can have a MIT, but it's all of these, data elements that need to go into the model that need the hardest work. And that's where data engineering and agents are really coming into a really big space right now. So you don't need 100 data quality analysts. You need a data quality agent, and then you need one person to verify the output of a data quality index, right? You don't need all the data engineers to sit there and map this data, right? You have a data mapping agent that knows the logic of how a claim ID coming in is this claim ID. It needs to go through the CLARA system, and then it needs to go back to the core system as the same claim ID, right? You need a data standardization agent that knows it's come in, it needs to be standardized as a critical data element to this level, and then it can be ready and fit for purpose. You're not going to need these large data organizations, but that is really important for everyone to go faster. You can build, but the data has to continue to find a better automated place. And I think that's where a lot of people are right now, that the data is still the obstacle to go faster.
Isn't that an obstacle for everyone? Because you're asking people who are our most intelligent technology people, that we're using tools so that you don't have to do the job anymore. And they could be maybe the most reluctant to want to do that. And so it's a big old barrier that you've got to get over and work with. And I would assume, I mean,
build your agent so that please build the agent to take your job. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I think that's a big ask to say, because a lot of people are like,
maybe my board's going to say that to me next. Heather, we're building the CEO agent.
We're building the CEO.
So we don't need you to report out at the next board meeting.
I did read an article about C-level. AI is coming for the C-level. I read that in the Wall Street Journal the other day.
Listen, would I love to wake up and have a whole dashboard be the
all
agent
right there for you
to say, listen, this is what's happening on the sales side.
This is good. This is bad.
Market side, yeah, like these are the next things, right? And this is what I would think. Absolutely. Think about it. I would love to have an agent that could just read every signal that's happening across every function.
Yes.
And, we know dashboards have been here for decades and decades, but an agent that's going to work, that gives you the next level and gives you the next reasoning of what you should do, that's agentic. And so the AI infrastructure that has to be in place in that architecture, I think everybody's going there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, these agents, it is the productivity and the competitive area that everyone's going to have to get to.
Right.
That's what's going to win out here, right? Yeah. So these agents that you're building at the data layer and then at the intelligent layer, that's going to be the competitiveness, not the pricing. I'm telling you.
Not the pricing. Right. It's
not the pricing, because the agents are going to be like taking, I truly believe one day that, with what we're already doing with actuarial intelligence, that actuaries, there's going to be actuary agents, right?
Yeah,
they're going to do all of that, right? I think in the adjuster field, yes, do I think the automation? Do I think the augmented intelligence? But I still think, even though the task may be taken by automation and the augmentation, I still think that there's that emotional claimant.
There's the empathy side. There's the
relationship that still needs to be there, because, for us, we stay non-prescriptive. We don't want to make that final decision for them. So they need to make those final decisions on the case based on, other things that are happening. But we're going to do 80% of it with the AI agent work. And as you know, it's going to say, I'm going to go ahead and produce this report for you. I'm going to go ahead and send this off for you. It's going to do the task, and it's going to give them reasons of next things to do and think about in the case. But they got to do it. They have to do it, right? I mean, listen, sure, the agents can fill up the fields. It can write out the notes for them, but they still have to make the judgment call.
Right. Rob and I were talking about that the other day with insurance agents, how we thought they'd go away, but you still have to have them.
You still have to have them. Yeah. I mean, things are going to be faster.
Yeah. The agent is a great example of the insurance agent, the broker. Is a great example of something that everybody was convinced was over, that in fact it was the opposite. In an average claims department, what I see will be able to occur is that the caseload of any one adjuster might be able to be much, much larger, because so much of the task work has been taken care of for them, right?
I think so, and I think their focus. Right. The focus on these are the most complex cases that could really expose us and our earnings and our balance sheet. So it's the focus for them, whereas they think maybe every file is equal. And so having a tool that really focuses them on a daily basis instead of a diary base, have it prioritization focus. And I still think too, Rob, about the broker, I think there's a broker human element, but I think there's a broker risk agent that is constantly looking at, their coverage, their programs, the policies that they have. And the agent is helping them with, listen, here's your options across what we're seeing that's happened this past year or right now with the cases and the claims. You'll have a risk agent that's helping the broker identify new types of coverages, right? Ways that they should think about that differently in their programs, in their book, and maybe different options of different carriers, and reinsurers. I think the broker will also be disrupted, just how they provide risk services and risk intelligence. The human will still be there, but I think there's an opportunity to really, disrupt it with augmented intelligence on that risk services side for the broker.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we already see in AI that even relationships can happen with an AI, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
so, I mean, personal in quotes relation.
Mm-hmm. You read about that or
No.
know about
I read it.
Yeah, listen, as you all know, when we do tech interviews, we have to make sure that it is a person, right?
You would have to, right?
We do now. We have to make sure. So, sure, can you have the true AI broker to interact back? And that's where I think even on the adjuster side, there's certain tasks, there's automation, and the digital AI adjuster can still come up, right? And that persona. But then when it gets to those higher level, I think you still need the person.
So this is moving so fast, your world that you work in every day.
Right.
I mean, are we a few years out from this kind of just remarkable leaps and bounds forward? I mean,
I think the next 2 years, agentic AI is really going to take hold from a competitive perspective. Once you get one carrier or next-gen broker or TPA that is like showing they're so competitively ahead because they've gone into this agentic space, or a core system is gotten outside of just administrative, like really gone into more of the intelligence, it's going to blow, in my opinion. And I think it'll happen over the next 2 years, and insurance specifically. Yeah, I do.
You have used that word twice, ontologence. What does that mean? Am I hearing that right?
I don't think so. I think maybe that's my northern and southern slang coming in together. It doesn't know if I should be Virginian, where I was born, or a New Yorker.
then it would be accent. It would be accent.
So you guys must be working on a agentic AI.
Yeah.
In your organization.
That's right. Both sides of it, the data agent and the AI agent, right? There's two layers of this.
And is it exciting? I mean, is the progress there? Is it happening?
It is. It is. I mean, obviously there is the conversation where, the head count, you don't need as many people to do some of these functions in data engineering, because once you have the agents, it's produced, it's built, and it's got the results, it helps us competitively, and also helps it, obviously just from the way that we run our operations, because at some point we have to have AI workforce and then human workforce. So it's important with what we do. I think on the AI agent side, we already are providing the next best reasoning. So the agent is already coming out and saying, listen, I have reasoned with the 20 models that are surrounding Rob's case, which could be auto, general, or workers' comp, and the output of the models are working together to reason, here's the 3 paths that you should think about, just like Waze. And that's the agentic that's coming in for us. And then there's dynamic summaries that happen every day. So think about an adjuster has not looked at that case in 180 days, okay?
Yeah,
and our models is like, you got to go into this case. Can you imagine, like, who is it? What's the situation? It's like, how do you reorient yourself? And we provide that. Like, I grew up with Cliff Notes. I don't know if you guys did, but I grew up with Cliff Notes, right? So it's my version of Cliff Notes. We call it risk notes. And it's dynamic. If a new piece of data comes in, guess what? It's updated, okay? And people love that. They love the explainability of what's happening in the case. They love the explainability of why a model is saying, I'm detecting something. Please look at these options of how to, think about moving forward. I mean, I really would want that.
Think about how many times I've stood at an adjuster's desk and said to them, nicely, how could you miss that? Right? I just got a call. It's been 180 days since this file has,
right, since you've looked at it.
What?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think the impact in our industry, of course, in every industry, but in our industry is indisputable.
It is. And to your earlier question, it's not about if they're going to adopt, it's when they're going to adopt an AI intelligence platform, right?
Right. Because
competitively, they're going to have to, productivity wise, right?
Even though culturally that's a complicated equation in the insurance industry, because as we all know, culturally, they like to think about it and ponder it and kick it around. But it's the pace that you guys are moving at is so much faster than what the industry is typically used to. I mean, as CEO or, chief revenue officer, I mean, how are you dealing with that? How are you dealing with that natural tension that exists with a carrier and their desire or ability to move quickly?
So I was talking to my team about that today. So I'm 4.5 years in, and somebody that I spoke to 3 years ago may have not been ready to engage and marry me. Guess what? They're at the altar with me now. So it's all about when they're ready and the use case is burning on their side, and they know that they need, and their internal models sometimes are not, or their AI pilots have not proven what they need.
Yeah.
That's when they start to come back into conversations with us. It really is when they're ready. And they know it too, because the use cases are developing, even new use cases, right? You can't catch a sleeper claim. A model can catch a sleeper claim, right? It knows as soon as it's going to get ready to wake up. You can't as a human, right? Or the stair stepping that happens out there, or the assignments of, to an adjuster. We had one client, 90-80% of the time they were reassigning. We got that down to 2%. It's like, think about the cost of dealing with a case when you're dealing with that. And then guess what? Maybe it shouldn't stay with that adjuster. Maybe it needs a specialist. Well, our models will say, listen, you need a specialist now to come in and handle the case. It's just, I think people's due time. Obviously, a lot of them put a lot of weight on that core system. And, those are pretty heavy implementations. But then they realize, okay, but that's not going to help me work a file. Right. That's not going to help me work a file. So that's when they start to realize that they've got to have another tool in their toolkit.
One of the questions that I hear a lot in the insurance space is the data. We don't want our data uploaded to the world through large language models, right? What is your response to that, to someone who says, I don't want my data feeding a large language model like ChatGPT? What separates you there?
Yeah, we have a couple of things that we work through with them. So you pay to play. So we are a contributory database model. So if you want to get our industry scores, so for example, if you're working with a provider in your network, but you want to see if that provider, is acting differently in the industry, you get that because our models learn specifically your claim shop, and then the data is anonymized to join the bigger pot, if you will, right? And so people love to be able to have that industry intel, and it makes them question, you're treating us differently than you are the industry. And you can see the metrics, and you can see how the scores, are compiled on different submetrics. And so once people see that they get benefit, so one area beyond the medical side, let's say you have a litigated case in a jurisdiction that you've never, dealt with before. You can go in our panels because you're a part of it, and you can see other carriers who they have used as defense counsel in that particular jurisdiction, how they've done in that particular court, and so forth. So we get over the first hurdle on that, and then they understand with Gen AI how we're using the LLMs, whether it's Claude or Anthropic, to really get down to what we need on those documents and to really make sure that we're using it in the most appropriate way. And they get a lot of they're fine with it once we explain it. And that's how we start our AI governance. Yeah. Like we've been testing for non-bias, right? Where we de-identify the data along our data engineering. So we really get people comfortable very early on when we're talking to them. And we've been doing this for so long.
Yeah. Well, exactly. You didn't come up yesterday and say large language models exist. Here we are. You're like, nah. This is how we added them to what we do.
And that's where, like, Rob, you were saying, like, it's happening so fast. Like, did I, 4.5 years ago when I came in, it was still predictive analytics, machine learning. Then we get into this Gen AI. Okay, got to get into that. Got to start, producing that, right? Then you get the LLMs that come in. All right, now you've got agentic AI. It's really important in our field to make sure that we understand, like, what are those next layers that we have to build? Like, you have to stay in the game. You got to stay in the game, okay? Like, we have not been sitting still just like on what was, 2012, 2017. CLARA is not the same CLARA from them. I mean, sure, the models have gotten smarter and smarter and learn more with more data coming in, but you got to continue to build these AI capabilities from your base layer that we had before. So we have lots of different techniques on our platform.
So as a CEO, and I'm going to just use this term, on a cutting edge company, certainly our industry, what keeps you up at night?
Oh, that's a great question. Other than my twin sons and their physics, missing them,
calculus in my house,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's not so much like running the organization, because I really, I have so many proof points and so many clients that will talk to the next prospect and say, listen, this is what I'm getting out of this, right? Like, it's not like running the business. To me, I worry more about people that aren't doing this yet. That's what keeps me up about our industry, because, I've been in fintech, I've been in health tech, I've been in logistics and retail tech, right? And I've seen how these others, like some of them probably should put a little strategy and not shoot from the hip as much, but we could do a little bit more of shooting from the hip and jumping in here, because something bad has happened in someone's life here. That's why there's a case. That's why a claim is being filed. And why wouldn't we want to use the best tools out there if we know that other industries have evolved and they're protecting the data and they're doing everything, the governance around it, okay? And that's what I worry about the most about our industry, is what consumers should get as a part of being an insured policyholder. Even from a policy perspective, we still as an industry don't put our claims intelligence and policy intelligence together. We should, right? And so, I worry about our industry. I really do.
So as somebody who's in the middle of it, you hear a lot about the AI bubble. You must not see it as a bubble.
I don't.
You must see it as the lag between where it is and how people can digest it, or something like that.
Exactly. Because I know that organizations are using like ChatGPT for some administrative things in their company. Okay. Like there's tasks around some of this, the general administration that's helping them with productivity. So there are use cases that they are using. There's just this whole barrier of mentality. I call it the AI psychology of them going to this next step, that they're going to be forced. Okay. I know my kids. Okay. I know Gen Alpha and the next generations are going to look at us and go, are you kidding me? Yeah. Are you kidding me that there are not tools? They're not going to go into our industry if we do not leave them a legacy of some of these tools. I mean, we still want them to use, right, the cognitive that we spend all this education, right, all this money.
Yep.
Like we use the cognitive, but we don't want an overload on cognitive. We want the models to take a lot of that. And so that's why the knowledge sharing is not like it used to be. But a tool can help these next generations showcase how cases have been handled, okay? And that's the knowledge sharing. These tools will show them how they've been handled, because there's cohorts to show them that, but then give them the tools that they're, again, it's not an if, it's when. And that's another thing that just worries me, because there is a retirement cliff. So there's a time that you're going to have to do it. And I don't know if there's a generation, that's going to have to happen here. Yeah, there you go. But Gen Alpha, Gen Z are like, no, I want my tools.
We're running up against the clock, which is just killing me because there's so much left to talk with you about. But I do want to talk a little bit about your background. because one of the things that we like to do is to provide, examples of people who've gone up the ladder in our industry.
Listen, if I ever thought when I graduated from college, I speak fluent Japanese and Russian, that I would ever be in this like systems world. And my first jump off was to Anderson Consulting, which is now Anderson, and we're all androids. And to be a coder and understand systems work, like it has just been really interesting for me. I never thought that, that I would do that, but it really gave me a platform to make sure that a lot of other, young women jump into this as well, and that we have great diversity and technology and data science populations. I have always, once I left consulting, my first chapter of my life, I really jumped into this epiphany that I had, which was data is the future. So joining Kaiser Permanente and helping to use algorithms to save lives, right? And try not to get one of those chronic conditions that 80% of the population of the U.S. was dying from. Back to, Citigroup and working on so many use cases beyond the data architecture because of the financial crisis, but really trying to find insights of how we could drive different things. To AIG, right? Working on fraud, working on so many different applications to really going into the data science and AI world. I've told everybody, I love the Michelangelo quote, which is be a lifelong learner. Like I'm always going to be that way. And you can't be in our field and not be a lifelong learner.
No.
I mean, as much as I love to lead, I love just to listen and just take it in. And so, I'm just really honored to still be in this space with where it's continuing to go.
Well, and we're honored to have had you here today. Sometimes I say to people, gosh, we need to have a part 2 of this episode. So, but we're going to let you get through Christmas and all that stuff.
Oh, thank you.
But we really need to have you back next year and continue.
Got to get you back next year.
Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Because think about how far we're going to be. I know. Technology is just going to keep going faster and faster.
I know. And I want to see what Rob's coffee cup. I want to see what Rob's coffee cup is when it's not a Christmas tree. I want to see what comes next, the next season, right?
We'll see what this is. We'll see
what that is, right? Mm-hmm.
Just one of the little benefits you get when you're on our podcast.
That's right. A little holiday cheer.
To see what Lee's drinking out of.
I do have quite a few.
Very good.
Who knows what?
Woman's a data scientist. What can you say?
That's right.
Listen, thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you, Robin Lee.
It was great.
It was great. Thanks so much for the time. It's a great conversation. Happy holidays to you.
Same.
Happy holidays.
One word.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I was so excited to interview her. I was so excited whenever I was reading through our show notes that Israel puts together and I did some additional insight. I thought, this is going to be an awesome podcast. And I feel like we barely scratched the surface of getting into the nitty gritty of what's going on. I think we need to have her back on and just really dive into agentic AI, the future, where we're going. How can we be the best leaders through AI? I think there's a lot there.
There's a lot there. She was generous and open, and many of the things that she said were incredible. I loved what she said about the bubble, that it isn't. What keeps her up night? That people aren't moving fast enough.
They're not moving fast enough. And I second that. I think about my kiddos who are going to go into a job one day and they're going to say, wait, you want me to do all this? There's machines that can do this. Yeah. Let me use my mind. Let me do what I'm good at. You want me to do all this paperwork and this task? I don't have to do that. Let me spend, an hour and build you an agent.
Yeah. Remarkable.
The world's going to look very different in a few years, in 5 years. We recorded this podcast through COVID, and the world looks different after COVID, right? If you listen to the podcast before COVID and after, we've recorded this through large language models being released. If we go back 300 episodes and start listening to things, they're very different now. I'm curious to see what the next 5 years hold.
Amazing. What a wonderful opportunity for us. And thank you so much, Heather Wilson, and all of you for listening. And this is, I think, the last one we're going to record in 2025. So even though you'll hear it in 2026, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Another year.
Until we see you again, we'll say
goodbye, everybody.